And if that's the case, what is the market cap, you people who bring up this bogus argument? What's the dollar's market cap?
Right.
Okay.
Well, okay.
We don't have one.
Let me ask you, are we going to possibly see the United States government under Trump just tell the Fed to, pardon my French, but just to fuck off, where we're not paying your debt? It's done.
I think that's been in progress now for several months. I mean, what wasn't it like 3 years ago their contract ended, or was it 2019, and they had an extension going to 2022?
Are you talking about the charter for the Federal Reserve?
Yeah, that expired.
So I looked into that. I've looked into that. They deliberately, because the first couple of banks in the United States had a 20-year charter, and that was one of the reasons that Andrew Jackson was able to close down the second Bank of the United States and pay off the debt. When they did the new charter for the Federal Reserve, they literally didn't. It was endless. There was no.
Okay.
It was, but anyway, I understand your point. I understand your point. But see, my humble opinion is that the whole aspect of the Federal Reserve is completely unconstitutional, because Congress is not supposed to be able to give away. It's one of those things that they can't give away.
They gave away something that wasn't theirs.
Yeah,
and it was never ratified. Well, it was ratified without a quorum.
Well, that's not an amendment, but it was legislation. It was done in the dark of the night on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, and it motivated the entire quorum rule, because they didn't even have 25% of congressional members to approve of the federal. Okay, all right. Apart from all that, let me throw a wrinkle in here. At the same time, USA Corp was rescinded and the connection to the Vatican was cut, I believe the Federal Reserve lost its power. I think those were simultaneous events. And now, okay, I've heard this like a dozen times from very informed people. In the last 3 or 4 years, the Federal Reserve is now owned pretty much by Wall Street, and not Warburg, not Rothschild, not that old group. It's the Wall Street banks, and JP Morgan is the majority holder. That's not true. The largest holder at 35%, which means JP Morgan basically calls the shots, and the other banks, they've got only half as much, like 10 to 15, 18, 20% each one. JP Morgan has 35. What's left with 4 other banks on 65%? It's 15 to 20% each. Okay, so when you cut out the Vatican and you denutted the Vatican and you raided the Vatican gold reserves and you did the, 750 plane loads, which turns out to be about 14,000 tons, which is almost twice Fort Knox. You're really ripping apart the Federal Reserve. And what we're going to get, I think, in the next few months is exposure. Like Germany is going to say, we want our New York Fed gold and we want it now. And they don't have it. So there's a lot of games being played. I don't know if people remember this event, but it was about 5 years ago. Germany requested their, I think it was at that time, 270 tons of gold, and the United States announced that there was a gold discovery in Chad in northwest Africa, and they had a plan to mine in Chad over a 7-year period, and it was exactly the volume that Germany required. Okay, so this is how we're meeting the needs. We steal it from African nations that can't defend themselves.
That sounds eerily similar to what Cecil Rhodes did when they did they found that big gold thing down in the Transvaal, which stimulated the Boer War in like 1898, when the British Empire was on their last leg because they were broke from fighting all these damn wars. And then all of a sudden they had this big gold discovery down in is what is now modern day South Africa. And so they send all the British troops down there to go get it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah. Well,
This
you're
is
better informed on that than I am.
Oh, I love that kind of. I love that type of history. So, Dana says, how does the sovereign wealth fund that President Trump has established with the Treasury and tariffs? I think I don't know. Like the question is a little bit maybe it's not complete, but I think you understand.
What's the relationship between the two?
How does the sovereign wealth fund that President Trump has established with the Treasury and tariffs? I think what she's meaning here is how is that going to impact the currency? How's that going to impact the value of the currency?
I think they're separate matters. I think the sovereign wealth fund is going to be from the locked away gigantic funds like Saint Germain, and Saint Germain is only one that we've heard about. There are a few others. There's one that's not called Saint Germain that Trump has talked about. He calls it a resource fund worth 150 trillion, and it doesn't give it a name. Those I think are going to go into the sovereign wealth fund and face some distribution. I believe the tariffs are going to be predominantly a tool to bring down the annual deficit for the government. That's what I think the tariffs are going to be largely for. And Trump has talked about giving a dividend to citizens and households from the tariff fund, but I don't think the tariff fund is going to be interwoven with the sovereign wealth fund. I think the sovereign wealth funds, in a nutshell, are gigantic troves that have been hidden away, locked away from the American public, primarily to fund underground cities for the elite, and that plan has been interrupted.
I don't disagree with that. What? Somebody says Caitlin Long is bashing XRP, saying Ethereum is going to run Swift. Yeah, I got to disagree with that.
What the heck does she know about such things?
I categorically reject that. One of the things that this is totally anecdotal, but it is something that told me how big of a deal Ripple was. And back in, I want to say 2021 timeframe, with the lawsuit going on, it was Ripple was looking to potentially move their headquarters. And a couple of the places, several of the places in the world that they were considering, one was Toronto, Canada, one was London, England, one was Dubai. And ultimately, they decided to stay in San Francisco.
Well, that doesn't mean that that's a permanent decision. When they go global and the adoption is occurring in dozens of countries, Ron, they need foreign offices.
I understand. I'm not. No, they already have foreign offices. What I'm talking about is where their headquarters is, and I think that they knew something that a lot of the public didn't, and that's why they did. That's why they elected to stay or to keep their headquarters and of all places, San Francisco. I mean, that city is dying.
Well, Ripple might rebuild it.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
There's so many people talking about how California is just an absolute shit show. But I got to tell you, you know what? There's going to be opportunities in California to buy real estate pennies on the dollar, and look. There's no way to, if I can be coy or euphemistic, there's no way to use that you can make America great again without California. No way.
Well, California is like 45% of the global food supply.
Yeah.
Why do you think Chinese want that? It's not Silicon Valley alone. No, they want Silicon Valley, but they also want the entire, what do you call it, Central Valley and those farms.
It's the San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah, and they're not going to get it. I think the Chinese are going to get kicked out in the next 5 years. It's going to take a while, but
I agree.
Ron, let me just make an interpretation, and it's aligned with what I'm hearing from you. Ripple decided to stay in California and San Francisco in particular uh, because they knew they were going to run the show of replacing the dollar.
That's right.
Yep. And, Ethereum, hey, sorry, Caitlin, I like your basketball, but they don't have on demand liquidity. They don't have fast transactions, and they don't have cheap
they're
transactions for
exactly.
Ethereum.
Ethereum's transactions with the gas fees are just, they're astronomically high. Listen, they've done a lot of good things. I mean, there's so many projects that are built on the Ethereum framework, but that's at some point in time that's going to come to an end, in my
Well,
opinion. I
well,
think
it's a dead end, but when you do a transfer, and believe me, I'm not an expert at this. I got wind of it from a friend of mine, and we talked about it for half an hour. When you're moving from your wallet to somebody else's wallet, or if you're using, if you're going from actually that's not so much the case. If you're talking about a transaction from your coin exchange account, like buying XRP and using Ethereum, or buying XRP and using Solana or using Bitcoin, you've got an ERC code, and the ERC code must be translated, must be communicated to the other side so they know what the ERC code is. Well, that's the Ethereum registry code.
Mm-hmm.
Ethereum's got the lock on coin exchange to coin exchange transactions and movement. And that's all well and good. But that's one reason the coin exchanges are slow, because Ethereum is slow and it's not cheap. Okay, so you got high fees and you got slow movement because they're Ethereum. And I think this is an area that XRP might infiltrate, Ron.
They're already infiltrating it. But that's why that's why places like Coinbase and Binance, when they came out with their own tokens. Now, their tokens are based on the Ethereum platform, their ERC20 tokens, but they are, it's what they call like Ethereum wrapped, right? So they can operate within the platform, but they're not subject to the high gas fees. And that's why, so you can buy tokens that are either so if you buy, there's several tokens out there, and one will be on the base chain, one will be on Ethereum chain, one will be on the Binance chain. Well, what that means is that it's all the same token, but there's different tokens are on different chains, if I understand that correctly. And when they're on the Ethereum wrapped chains, like the BNB or Base, then you don't have the high gas fees to get in and out. Now you have to use Binance, or you have to use Coinbase, but you don't have to pay the high gas fees.
I love that term, gas fees. And that's why we hear things like T-Fuel. Those are your gas fees.
Mm-hmm.
And I might ask you to help me with something regarding Theta, because I'd like to get out of Theta.
So this is another reason why XRP has to be a high value, is because it's deflationary. Every time that you do an XRP transaction, a tiny little bit of XRP is burned off.
It's only 5 million. I heard this from Schwartz and no, somebody else. Oh gosh, somebody talking about XRP who was very knowledgeable. They're burning 5 million XRP per year.
Mm-hmm. Well, they
got 100 billion.
But
that's not even 1/200th. That's 1/200th of a billion.
But when you get the price to be super high, then it's essentially it'll be required to burn more. I don't think it's I think they're not going to burn as much. It'll burn less.
Okay. I don't really understand the burn concept too well. That's something I need to understand better. But this is an educational process, and I'm moving along, Ron, and I'm becoming more knowledgeable.
You're way more knowledgeable than you were a year ago. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, there's another contract. There's an executive at Ripple who's been there for over a year, like a technology vice president, and he came straight from the DTCC, the Depository Trust Clearing Corp. We might get the DCC, it doesn't roll off my tongue. We might get the DTCC lion's share of movement for CUSIP transactions behind the wall in stock and bond brokerage.
Yeah. Well, you know who else they lured away was Rosie Rios.
Rosie Rios.
Rosie Rios was the Treasury Secretary under the Obama administration, yes. And her name appears on almost 60 to 70% of the $100 bills in circulation right now.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so we've got the inside track, and they did a very good job of lubricating the Congress. Yeah.
Well,
how many congressional members did not get something from Ripple?
My humble opinion is that the lawsuit that was filed against XRP was a spectacle, total theater, and it was theater so that they had it for the most part. They had it ready to rock and roll in the United States. So Trump leaves for 4 years. And then while XRP's fighting this mysterious and mythological lawsuit against the SEC, meanwhile, they go out into the world and they start courting and getting all of these countries on board. And
adoption.
Then Trump comes back, and now the whole thing is ready to go.
Ron, I have my own image. And it's not so much a metaphor as it is an image. The SEC cases were frivolous, and they created a gigantic billboard on the highways that said XRP, it's coming to town. A billboard. Okay, great publicity. You can't pay for that kind of quality publicity, Ron.
Right.
And now all the cases are dropped and the publicity is still there, and everybody knows what XRP is. Oh, that's the coin that the SEC had no case in blocking.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's becoming more clear that the big banks use the SEC in order to slow things down so the big banks could acquire XRP and discourage the plebeians like us from buying more, but it didn't really work.
Well, it did on some people. It didn't on others.
The ones I've only known a couple people who got out of XRP and they said, I'm getting back in. So they got out. They got out at $2 and they got back in at $3. They got out at 50 cents and they're back in at $2 and they're really regretting what they did.
And that's all well and good. And you know what? They probably lost they probably lost a third of their position or whatever. But you know what? At the end of the day, even that loss is the value of the token is going to make up for that loss.
Oh,
a 1,000-fold. And let me just say this. The digital asset space that we are coming into right now. A lot of people are just if I can't hold it in my hand, then I don't own it. Newsflash: you've been using digital currency for the last 50 years by virtue of a debit card. Okay, so the fact that you think you can't hold it in your hand is an irrelevant, totally stupid argument, and right. With no disrespect, but
I'll give them disrespect. I have no problem giving them disrespect. As what was the Florida senator? What's his name? Gates. He said, "Be offended."
Yeah, be offended. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. Be offended.
But the ultimate point that I want to make here is that the digital asset space is the first new asset class that we have had in nearly 400 years since the stock. Okay, and I don't really think I don't think people truly understand the opportunity here for the formation and creation of generational wealth.
Absolutely. Ron, you got to bring up the argument. You remember it was 20 years ago. Oh, I'm not really comfortable using online access to my stock brokerage account or to my
Hmm.
bank account. I don't think it'll really take off. I don't think it will take root in the public with trust. Well, I remember 30 years ago, people said, I'm not sure email is going to become a standard business
All right.
device. If you can't see the letter in your hand and
Hmm.
see the postage and know where it came from, like from, Rapid City, South Dakota, then I don't know what it is. Okay, this is Neanderthal thinking. It's going to be
Hmm.
passed by. Now,
The people
I
who are talking like that are the same people who are refusing to buy a car because they have a very good horse and buggy.
well, there's more. I say to people, how do you like the fraud that's in the stock market and Wall Street with the bond market and duplicate serial numbers with treasury bonds and the Lehman crash and all
Hmm.
that controversy with the corruption in the bond market with mortgage and finance? Did you lose your home? Did you get foreclosed? Okay, did you like that? Because digital finance is not going to it's not going to remove 100% of that fraud. I think it's going to remove over 90% of it, 95%. It's going to be on the blockchain, and then you get elections that are going to be on the blockchain, and
That's right.
we're going to move fraud from that. So, do you like fraud in banking, in brokerage? Well, then, okay, I can see why you wouldn't like Bitcoin and wouldn't like XRP. I tell you, I've been getting into a couple of arguments, and they're not heated; they're constructive. And I tell people, your argument that XRP is just another type of Bitcoin. No, 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 no. No, XRP is not another Bitcoin. Bitcoin requires mining. Bitcoin has no headquarters. Bitcoin has slow transactions and
Here's another
costly
one.
transactions.
Here's another one. The internet's just a fad. No one's going to shop online.
They're going to be passed by. In
Hmm.
fact, what I told this one friend of mine in Canada, I said, you don't have to climb on board, but you're going to know people who become rather wealthy, like with several $100,000 in wealth or maybe a few million, and you're not.
Minimum.
And you're not because of your position right now. I said, XRP is not Bitcoin. There's no mining. Okay, there's a guy, his name is Mac something. I can't remember his full name, but he did some polls. I'm a statistician. I know what polls are all about, and I know how they work, and I know the accuracy that it's involved. And this guy did polls of 1,400 crypto owners. And it was like 75%, 80% in favor of XRP over Bitcoin. And this
Hmm.
guy owns a lot of Bitcoin. The guy Mac, I can't remember his name, but he was like a 50-year-old guy, really smart guy, huge following, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. And he is coming across the road
Yeah. Hmm.
into Ripple XRP ecosystem for its advantages. And he listed them. It's faster than Bitcoin. It's cheaper than Bitcoin. It's more reliable than Bitcoin. It doesn't require mining like Bitcoin.
Hmm.
It's going to supplant and flip Bitcoin. It's going to happen. It might be a lot quicker than people realize. I think Bitcoin, I call it the anti-US dollar underworld coin.
I don't. You're not talking about Max Kaiser, are you?
No, no, no. Mac.
Yeah.
Mac ES, Mac SD. I can't think of his name. No, Mac Kaiser's great. I
Yeah.
have a lot of respect for Max Kaiser. I wish he'd give me $1 million worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, he's not hurting.
I know.
He's not hurting with
I
his. I
already got
mean,
a
he was.
million Bitcoin.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I
He's
think he, I think he might buy a small Latin American country before long.
very, very possible.
He might
Very possible.
he might
But
buy he might buy
yeah.
Guatemala or Salvador.
Who knows exactly? He's got so much
I think
money. It's like, yeah, he's a
I wish he
little.
I wish
He's
he'd
a little
started.
eccentric, though. He's a little eccentric, though.
Oh, of course he is. Who wouldn't be? So's Elon Musk. So what?
Yes. So
So
am
are
I.
you.
So are
So are you.
you.
Yeah. We call it color.
I have no problem. Hey, call me
Ron,
eccentric. Yeah,
Ron,
I'm good with that.
I've been told something by 100 different clients, and paying clients and non-paying clients, followers, if you will. You're interesting to watch. You're colorful. You're interesting. You have facts at your fingertips. You make good arguments. Okay, we're not boring people, Ron. And if we're a little eccentric, then fine. So what? Do you want a boring guy who's not eccentric? Well, maybe not in the bedroom, because I get to be a little bit off the handle, not in the bedroom, but in relationships. I'm critical. I'm demanding. If you betray me, I will remember. I will forgive, but I will suspect that you'll do it again and again. Okay. I have a memory like an elephant.
So do
I
I.
have a lot of. Well, you have the weight of an elephant.
Fuck you.
By the way, I'm 180 pounds.
I'm not that small.
What are you down to, Ron? Do you mind talking about it?
Yeah. I was like, I think the last time I got on there was like 280.
280. Okay.
So, but I mean, I'm 6'2", and you wouldn't look at me and think that I was that way. I'm a big. Hey, I'm a big Scot. I'm a big Scot. Okay, I'm a big Scottish guy.
I'm not a big bone guy. This is. Anyway, yeah. Well, you're probably bigger boned. Okay.
Well, I got it from my grandfather on my mother's side.
Huh.
So.
Well, the next few months are going to be very important. We haven't talked about silver, but I remember telling people before June, that we're coming up against the moving averages. We're moving sideways in the price. We're coming up against the moving averages, and we're probably going to make a move toward 40, and we did. Well, now we're doing it again, Ron. We're probably going to go into August hibernation. There's nothing much happening. It's vacation time.
Yep.
In Europe, it's very truly vacation time. I remember on my honeymoon, I went through Turin, Italy. And nothing was open. Nothing. No restaurants, no little side, convenience store. Nothing was open. Okay. In the United States, it's largely the second half of August. Vacation time to go to the lake, time to go to the beach. I went to the North Carolina beach at Outer Banks. I'm not making this up. 25 times. I called it my Mecca. Sometimes in the last few years, when I was in the United States until 2007, I'd go in June, and then I'd go again in August to the Outer Banks. And I'd use the Kill Devil Hills library to check up my emails from clients. But this is before I had a very healthy growth spurt for the clientele. So it wasn't as difficult to manage. Right now it's more this is full-time work. I haven't had a vacation, Ron, in 8 years.
I understand that. Somebody's in there said, "Oh, like great. Oh, yeah. So they said that I thought that Partain was French. Partain is not French. Partain is actually English, and but I'm Scottish on my mother's side. Armstrong is my mother's maiden name, and my grandmother's maiden name was Wallace. And if you have any doubts as to who, Wallace is also Scott. You never heard
Scotch.
of the, yeah,
Scotch.
William
Scotch.
Wallace. Yeah,
as
same Will. So
Braveheart. I know.
Yeah, exactly. That he would be. So my
take away our freedom.
Yeah, exactly. So Wallace is my great grandfather, however many generations removed, would have been William Wallace's brother.
Holy moly. Well, Willie is German. It's Wilhelm.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. um,
Oh, that's funny.
here's some trivia for you. Uh, what do Kaiser in Germany and Tsar in Russia have in common?
They're both Caesar.
They're Caesars. They're Caesars in their native languages.
Yep.
In Spanish, it's Cesar. So that's a giveaway. But Kaiser is Caesar in German, and Tsar is Caesar in Russian.
Right.
We just don't know how to spell Tsar in Russia because they got a different alphabet. So we got TZ and we also got CZ. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares?
CZ. I think CZAR is the most common used in the English language, but
Yeah.
I think TZAR is probably the most appropriate if you're doing
Fine.
if you're doing the translation.
And their current Tsar is Putin.
That's right.
And that's why, he's like the permanent president until he decides that he doesn't want to be it anymore. But then we might get a new Putin. Okay, we're on Putin number 3, by the way, people. This is the 3rd version of Putin. And the original, I have pictures of the original, not even remotely similar to the current Putin. Not even remotely.
Okay, so all right. Well,
anyway,
so depending on which Putin we're meeting, Trump's meeting with him. Who knows?
The current Putin is going to meet the current Trump.
I was going to say something along those lines. No, I'm not. I will be honest with you. I am not of your opinion that they're changed, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree. We don't know. But
they're meeting because they've already made an agreement.
That's right.
And Ukraine is not part of the agreement. The leadership in Ukraine, not part of the agreement. And I don't know if the leadership of NATO is part of the agreement. You
remember when J.D. Vance went over there back in, what was it, March? And he told NATO to their face, look, if y'all want to continue this war in Ukraine, you got to have to do it because it ain't going to be Article 5 and we ain't going to be participants.
Well, Trump resupplied them last month.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing as actually putting in military forces or boots on the ground.
Okay. Armament is not the same as boots on the ground. Right, I agree.
So and like we talked about it initially when we opened up, I think that is okay. I know you didn't really want to talk about Bill Barr, but I want to talk about this for a second, just because it's a big deal. So Bill Barr was right in the thick of it, meeting with people like Fannie Willis to prosecute him in down there in Georgia. He was in it with Letitia James up in New York. It was like he was the ringleader coordinating many of, and this is according to a whistleblower, that Bill Barr was the person who was coordinating a lot of the lawfare against Trump. Okay, now that said, I'm a firm believer that Trump is an expert in putting people who he wants to highlight into positions of authority,
so they can be wrecked.
Right. And I think that's exactly what I mean.
What position of authority is Bill Barr being put into right now? I don't see that.
He's not, but he was the he was the attorney general.
I know, but he's getting publicity now. He's being outed. He's being outed.
But nobody would have known who he was had Trump not put him into the position of attorney general in the last year of his presidency or whatever,
so that he could betray Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, and I think that's a very valid approach. The way I hear people describe it is Trump puts people on stage.
Yes.
And they get publicity. Yeah. So that they can be revealed as traitors or killers or thieves stealing money. And then he can say, well, I didn't know. It happened, and They got exposed. But he's like a manipulative coordinator behind the scenes, and in a constructive way. I like that in him.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to say that some of his decisions lately by aggravating aggravating Putin, supplying NATO, telling Russia that they need to give back the lands, telling Russia that they're fighting a war where people are dying in Ukraine trying to protect their country, attacking Iran. He's done a lot of things that are very much against what he campaigned back in autumn of 2024. So we need to understand what the heck he's doing.
Well, I am of the opinion that Trump has, in many respects, almost been groomed for this position going back several decades. I've been doing quite a bit of research on this, and I tend to think that Trump has been groomed for this. If you go back and you look at a lot of the things that he said in the 80s and 90s on TV when he came out on 9/11, and he was like, there's no way those buildings could have come down that way. There's a lot of things out there that he has been on the periphery, but he's been consistent.
Yeah.
He's never wavered.
Could be groomed very much. By the way, I have a client who I've gotten to know a little bit in the last 2 years, and he was in South Manhattan on 9/11. He was there that morning, and there were no planes. It's a television event. There were no planes, and he got covered by dust. And he went back the next day because he worked in South Manhattan. He worked for a big financial firm. He went back the next day and asked the workers, "You got any engine parts there?" They all laughed and said, No. "You have any fuselage parts there?" They all laughed and said, "No." And the guy asked them, "What are you finding?" And 2 or 3 of the guys said, "A lot of thermite," which is an explosive chemical.
Right.
"No airplanes. Only on television were there airplanes." And he said, "Jim, don't give away my identity because I don't want to get murdered." Well, there were no planes.
Okay.
He said all the little puffs like the 20, 40, 60, 84.
Squibs.
And then the top kind of disintegrated. And then he said, what was it, about 20 minutes later? No plane. And the other one went down. Demolition, no planes. It's a television event. Only on television do you see the planes. No eyewitnesses said there were planes. Okay, that's just a quick aside to how much deception we've been have had shoved down our throats. I'm excited about the next few months, Ron, because I think we're going to see silver with the breakout. I think we're going to see XRP with the price discovery closer to 10. I think we're going to see some very unusual events regarding gold. Like Trump has announced that Swiss gold is going to be subject to a tariff. And this is wild. Wild. Okay, why Switzerland? Maybe because that's the enemy satanic state. Oh. Maybe because Basel is his target, Ron? Maybe?
Possibly. Somebody's asking about a potential alien invasion, and I that's not really something that I want to really get into on my channel. But
that's silly crap.
I'll just tell you this. I mean, anybody who knows about Bluebeam and knows that Werner von Braun talked about that was the ultimate plan, was to do a mock alien invasion. There is some merit to that, but that's more of a topic for somebody like Dark Journalist or Danny Jones or somebody like that. So
Ron,
that's not my.
let me bring in a false flag 201 theory. If you keep hearing about it, it ain't gonna happen. We heard over and over again about what do you call it? A false flag nuke in Poland. And after I heard it the second time, I said, therefore, it will not happen. False flag 201. It's not basic. It's the next level up. I hope we hear about more rumors of alien invasion, because that'll be a guarantee, and that's like a nailing down that coffin. Ain't going to happen.
Right.
Nukes in the United States from the Russians on submarines off the Atlantic coast. No, we heard about it 3 or 4 times. Not going to happen.
I agree.
We might have an invasion force at Guantanamo. that could happen.
Well, what I'm hearing more than anything is I'm hearing of sleeper cells in the United States that have been brought in, and they've been here for years.
Yep. That's a problem. That's real.
That will be activated, and they're not going to be in the cities. They're going to be in the suburbs, going through and just wreaking havoc in the suburbs. And so I feel like there's a lot of that's going to be in blue areas, but there's going to be a lot of chaos, at least from what I understand. But those of us who make it through, I think it's we're gonna experience all the things that the Jetsons promised us.
Yeah, well,
flying cars and all that kind of shit.
I'm kind of curious if I can get myself a home that's in the clouds, above the clouds, so that I can see the sunset with the clouds as a blanket below. I thought Mrs. Jetson was pretty hot. I don't know about you.
Well, that's a cartoon, Jim.
I thought she was hot.
Okay.
I was young. I had a crush on Mrs. Jetson. What can I say?
Okay. I will. That's a little too eccentric for my taste, but it's okay. Well, let's see here. I don't see anywhere like significant.
Okay, that's okay. I'm kind of low on energy, and my attention span is slipping anyway. We got an hour.
And I've got
we got an hour.
I've got like 6 Bengal kittens that are hungry all the time. So
you must spend a lot on cat food.
Well, yeah, I do.
You can probably rely on dry cat food, because that's like
well, I mean, I do I do a lot of dry cat food, but I mean, the problem is with the two females that I had that gave birth. One of them was too young. She was only like 9 months, maybe 9 or 10 months old when she got pregnant. I didn't expect that she was going to get pregnant. I was shocked that she was pregnant.
Well, you got a gaggle of cats that are going to jump on each other.
Well, yeah, but I just didn't expect her to be pregnant. And then
they're going to try things out. They're going to jump each other.
Well,
then playing, and before you know it, they're inside.
The other one did get pregnant, and she was big, and she had 7. Her litter was 7 kittens, and she she can't keep up with the milk production. So all these cats are just absolutely just starving. So
all right.
But anyway,
that's great.
Anyway,
that's great.
Yeah, I know. I can tell you're just totally enthralled.
Yeah, okay. I find it interesting, but in a private conversation, not on a recorded show.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I love cats. I had a cat. My Tiffany from 1997 to 2000 was the most wonderful pet I've ever had.
The people who follow my channel know that the cats are kind of my cats are kind of incorporated in the motif of my show, so it's okay.
Yeah, I know. And is Cindy still around?
Cindy is still around. Yes,
Okay.
Cindy is still around. And but she doesn't really come to me much anymore. So, but yes, I do still have Cindy.
Well, she's probably jealous of all the attention you
No,
give to the other.
no, she kind of no. She actually she be you know what after a certain period of time she started to get really aloof and she started to go off and she didn't really want to be around. She was very just kind of like I mean she
Still inside
became
the house, though, right? Inside the house.
she comes and goes. She comes and goes. She's aloof. She's very independent and aloof and does her own thing. And there's only one other cat that she likes. That every other one, you know, she
Okay.
runs away from or whatever. So
Oh, that's really cool.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, all
All
right,
right.
guys. Well,
Well,
that's gonna be it for
it's a
today.
wrap. All
That's a
right. Let
wrap.
me urge people to go to golden-jackass.com, sign up for the newsletter. You don't have to read the whole thing. Make a contribution if you only like to see shows. Make a contribution. I've got an increasing, growing list of people who are making regular contributions. This is not Patreon, but just make a contribution now and again. If you're really wealthy, help me out because I'm getting the shit kicked out of me by really weird, ugly events like fires and fraud and car crashes and medical costs. I'm getting the shit kicked out of me. So help me out so that I can stay on the air and stay happy because I'm stressed out at times. Sign up for the newsletter. It's a monthly publication the last few days of each month. I got consult opportunities. Sign up for a consult session and I give extra time, usually when it's somebody who's, entertaining and useful to talk to, and it's a two-way street. We go extra all the time. I go extra. All right. So go to thejackass.com, goldenjackass.com, sign up, make a contribution, make a consult, keep me going. Keep me going. Don't be a
Well,
freeloader.
let me ask you one
Looking for
final.
free videos.
Let me ask you one final question.
Yeah.
And this is going to be just kind of cut and dry. But do you have any price predictions for precious metals for the end of the year?
End of the year. End of the year. I think we're going to probably see something in the mid 40s for silver and probably something like 3,600 for gold. Not huge moves, but we got a lot of wild cards. And right now we've got demand going up for silver and we got supply going down for silver. The gap is getting bigger. We're going to have an accident for silver, and I just don't know when it's going to be. And the accident will be like a 50% move in the silver price. I don't know when it's going to be. We're heading toward an accident for supply versus demand.
You mean on the upside?
Absolutely, 50% up, like we go from 45 towards 70. Yep.
So it'll be a total disjointed.
Disjointed, discontinuous move, quantum jump up, call it what you want. In mathematics, we call it a discontinuous move, discontinuous function series. We got growing demand for silver. We got falling supply for silver. We have no big, giant silver discoveries in years.
Well, didn't
we're heading for an accident.
Isn't Mexico shutting down their production?
And that's another thing. We've got declining supply, and Mexico is a big part of the declining supply. They're realizing that silver is a national security commodity metal, and they're not talking about a silver-based Mexican peso currency. They're just talking about keeping the silver home for industry, for national security, but they're letting the silver go to China in a big way. So it's like Mexico and China are forming a cartel under our noses without really advertising that fact.
Well, and that's one of the reasons.
Go ahead.
That's one of the reasons why Trump is coming down on Mexico so hard, because
they're run by the cartels.
Mm-hmm.
And we're making a lot of progress in weakening, not defeating, but weakening the cartels. I think it would be a really interesting plan if they got a cartel war going where one was at the other's throat and they were killing each other off. By the way, the cartel wars have resulted in close to 300,000 people dying in Mexico, which is like 5 times or 8 times our Vietnam death count. The cartels are killing Mexico, and I believe they've, this is just my opinion, I believe they've got something of a loose partnership with Scheinbaum, the president. So when
Trump, yeah, stick around, Jim. I'm gonna. All right, guys. On that note, I'm gonna say adieu. Have a good night. Thank you, Jim. And we'll see you guys next time. I'll be here back on.